So we've seen the business landscape change quite significantly over the COVID crisis, and we've seen businesses move from their business as usual model, and now they've gone to operating during the crisis phase and everyone working from home, and we've ended up with a hybrid model now with a lot of businesses operating some days from the office and some days from home. And so as that model changes, organizations have to think about the cybersecurity impacts of that. And that can't be left to the end once you've got everything else sorted and then you tag cybersecurity on. You need to think about that from the beginning, and that cybersecurity has to be built into any business model that you create. We're seeing a real change in behavior, and we saw that start during the work from home phase with COVID-19. So people were looking at their tools and how they operate. A lot of companies moved really swiftly into that mode. And so now we see people using tools that weren't designed for business necessarily. So they might use applications that they use for personal life, and they might be sending sensitive documents through those applications. Now, it's a good opportunity for organizations to think about, are we comfortable with those sorts of applications? How do we expect staff to work in this mixed model where they're at work and at home? And do we have some very clear guidance around that for organizations? So what is your policy? And do you have a clear policy in place around how this works? We're sure that most organizations had a pre-COVID policy. Some organizations might have cobbled one together during COVID, but probably not. It was a bit of a crazy time. And so now you're out the other side. You've got an opportunity to relook your policy of how your organization works and think very clearly about how you expect your staff to work and what software you expect them to use, because that's going to create new risks for your organization. So during the COVID period, we did see a number of organizations distracted from their normal day-to-day work, and we've certainly seen that items like patching are not happening as often as they should. And hackers have taken advantage of this situation, as they often do. So we've seen an increase in phishing emails, and we've seen an increase in ransomware attacks as well. And particularly here in Australia and New Zealand, we've seen a slightly new breed of ransomware attack coming out, and we've seen quite a few of these. So this is where hackers find an unpatched bit of your network, gain access to your organization, and then exfiltrate your data. They hang on to that data when they give you a ransom email, and once you receive the ransom email and your network is locked up, if you aren't going to pay the ransom, the hackers will often point to you that they have some of your customer data and that they may well publish that, which would affect your reputation. So we certainly recommend for boards that they ensure with this wave of ransomware attacks that their organization is set up to defend against this, and it would definitely be a conversation you want to have with the person in your business responsible for your cybersecurity to make sure you're monitoring your networks for unusual activity. So a couple of recommendations for your next board meeting would certainly be to ask your executive to present what decisions were made by them during the COVID crisis, decisions they made around data and where your data went, for example. So if there was a decision to place customer data in the cloud, what does that mean for your business? And then to look at the current situation with a clear head and a fresh start, and to think about whether all of those decisions that were made at that stage are still relevant and still apply. What are the risks now? And how can you ensure that those risks are mitigated? So if data has been put somewhere, for example, that may not be some way you want to work going forward, you might need to change that decision or move that data elsewhere. And so you need to ensure that your exec team has explored those risks, that they're able to articulate that to you really well, and that you're able to work alongside them to ensure that the risks are properly mitigated to protect the business going forward. So now is also a really good opportunity for boards to start thinking about the longer term cybersecurity impacts for their business. Most organizations have some kind of security roadmap that's taking them from where they currently are to a more secure position. Post-COVID is a good opportunity to review that roadmap. There's probably going to be some changes in your priorities now that you have staff working more from home as well as from the office. And so you need to review that roadmap and change what those priorities are and set up the tasks you're going to work on over the next 2, 3, 4 years to make your organization more secure. And your executive team should be reporting to you as a board on a regular basis on how those projects are tracking.